What's up, everybody? It's your boy Clyde Walker, and today I want to talk about 3 theories that I have for Cobra Kai Season 4. Now, my 3 videos consist of what is going to happen in the All Valley tournament, what Kreese wants, and why Daniel won't call the cops on the Cobra Kai students. Now, I know technically that's more of a Season 3 theory, but, whatever. Let's run over that first. Now, you may believe that the reason Daniel won't call the cops is because it's meant to be a throwback to the 80s. It's meant to be slightly over the top and ridiculous. But I think there's a legitimate reason, or reasons, why he won't call the cops. And one of those reasons is in the intro of episode 8, when Kreese, Johnny, and Daniel are talking to their students. It cuts to Daniel, and he says, forgiveness and compassion. And right before that, Kreese had said something about their enemies to his students, and then it went into Daniel. Now, I believe that the context is, still the same. Daniel is talking about the Cobra Kai students. And so he wants to show forgiveness and compassion to them because, as we've seen in the previous 2 seasons, Daniel believes that the students of Cobra Kai are simply brainwashed. In his eyes, they're victims of circumstance, essentially, and that Kreese is preying on their weaknesses, for which he's not wrong. But also, another few reasons why he won't call the cops on them is because he's already seen the effects of what happens when you essentially go behind someone's back, calling the cops on them. What happened with Robbie? When he called the cops on Robbie, it pushed Robbie into Kreese's hands. Now, granted, Daniel didn't know that Kreese had got his fingers onto Robbie, and at this point. And he didn't know that until later on. So I think that realization, along with the forgiveness and compassion and thinking that the kids are brainwashed, are reasons why he won't go to the cops. Another good reason is because of Kreese himself. We've seen that Kreese can flip the script pretty easily when it comes to what happens, in all their stories. He's already went to the cops and got a why can't I think of the word right now? Restraining order on Amanda. So Daniel already knows that Kreese could easily flip it, for which he could because Johnny went into the Cobra Kai studio and he was the first one to strike. Daniel technically struck first against Kreese because he went into his personal space and grabbed him. And by law, going into someone's personal space like that is technically assault. So Daniel and Johnny both assaulted Kreese first. And Kreese could easily spin it so that way everything he did beyond that point was self-defense. And considering that Johnny grabbed a weapon first before Kreese, and Robbie can attest to that, then yes, Kreese could say that he had to use deadly force against Johnny if they were to try and say, oh, well, I found Kreese, choking, trying to kill Johnny. So yeah, those are some of the reasons. Also, if you think, oh, Daniel could just get the cops to come to his house and be like, see, I'm not lying. As we saw already with the cops, or with one of the cops, they really don't care about what Daniel and Amanda have to say. So if he was to be like, can't you just come to my house? It's doubtful that they would believe him and, essentially waste their time going to his house. So that's why I think Daniel won't call the cops on the Cobra Kai students. Now, for what I believe Kreese wants from Johnny and Daniel, and this is simply, if he wins, what he would want. From Johnny, I believe he's going to use Terry Silver to open up more Cobra Kai dojos. As we saw, that was his plan in The Karate Kid Part 3. And so if he opens up multiple dojos and wins the All Valley against Johnny and Daniel, I believe that he will get Johnny to be a sensei in one of the dojos. So that way he can keep Johnny in the palm of his hand and, just be close to him so he can manipulate him. And here's the thing. He would technically be giving Johnny what Johnny wants, which is to be a teacher over his own dojo. And he can easily manipulate it into, being that way in Johnny's eyes. Now, by this point, Johnny's pretty smart, so he won't go along with it 100%. I mean, I'm not saying that he won't teach kids at a Cobra Kai dojo. I'm simply saying he won't let Kreese manipulate him beyond that point. And as for what he would want from Daniel, he will probably get Daniel to close down Miyagi-Do and essentially force him to focus on his dealership, because Miyagi-Do has been a thorn in Kreese's side since part 1. So I believe that's all he really wants from Daniel, is just to have Daniel out of the picture and out of the way. And now for the biggest theory, which is how I believe the tournament at the All Valley is going to go down next season. Now this also leads into a season 5 theories, or season 5 theories that I have. I won't go over those in this episode. It'd be way too long. Now for the All Valley tournament, you have to remember what has happened in season 2 and 3 with all of the karate showdowns and kids getting injured. And we know that the board, the All Valley board, has gone door to door to dojos, or at least did phone calls or emails or what have you, stating, hey, the All Valley isn't going to happen this year. Now, after everything that's happened, I believe a lot of the dojos were either, for it, or slightly for it, or maybe just a tad against it. So I believe that there are going to be some dojos, when they hear that the All Valley is back on, they'll still refuse to participate, or some of them will be like, okay, cool, I still don't want to participate, or others will participate. Now, I counted how many students there are in Johnny and Daniel's dojo, and I'm just going to call it the Nariyoshi Karate, because I believe that that's more than likely what they're going to settle on in terms of the name for the dojo. In Nariyoshi Karate, there's 16 students, and you could argue that there's also 16 students in Cobra Kai, which makes 32 students overall. And the reason that matters is because in a tournament bracket, for which is what we've seen the All Valley use. Now, I'm not sure if they use a bracket the entire tournament, or if they only use this bracket for the final 16 or final 8. But either way, there is a tournament bracket. Now, for brackets, the perfect sets of numbers are 8, 16, 32, and then 64. Now, with both dojos having 16 members, that's 32 kids, and it's doubtful that the writers are just going to have only Cobra Kai and Nariyoshi students. So, of course, they're going to add more. But I don't think it's going to be 64 students. That's way too long. And, even if it was 64 students, of course, there'd be more focus on Cobra Kai and Nariyoshi students. So I believe that they're going to cut out some of the extras that they have, and they're going to make it 12 on each side, which makes 24, which leaves 8 spots to make it a perfect 32. And those 8 spots, I believe, are going to be filled by 2 dojos who are only going to give 4 students each into the tournament. I don't know why I said give up. It sounded odd. So that'd make 32. And that is where, my bracket comes in. And as for the first round, it's just a bunch of fights of Cobra Kai taking on random students, or Nariyoshi extras, and then Nariyoshi students taking on Cobra Kai extras. The only one that's going to have any sort of dialogue, I believe, is Eli's first fight, and I believe it's going to be against the guy with the long dreads who was standing there in Daniel's house when Rickenberger, the very big Cobra Kai student, had Dimitri's arm in a lock. I believe that's who Hawk is going to fight first, is the kid with the dreads. And really all he's going to say is, he's going to call Eli a traitor, and I believe that's going to be pretty much it. And then in round 2, I believe Sam is going to fight Mickey, and Mickey is that one Cobra Kai student who's kind of short. He's the one that Sam attacked first in the soccer game. So I believe all he's going to do is just call her a tramp or something like that. And then I believe Tori will fight Bert. And when she wins, for which she will, if those two were to fight, I believe she would mock him for being weak, essentially. And then Eli's next fight, I believe, would be against Rickenberger. And Eli would ask, are you going to call me a traitor too? And he'll be like, I don't need to. I just need to not show you any mercy. Or I'm not going to. I'm just going to show you no mercy. And then the final fight of the round, I believe, is going to be between Robbie and Dimitri. And I think Robbie does care for Dimitri. And I'm sure, he has no ill will against Dimitri. It's not like he has any ill will against the Miyagi-Dos, He just doesn't care for Miguel and Sam. So I think he's going to go just slightly easy on Dimitri. And Dimitri, I'm not saying Dimitri's going to get a point. I'm saying Dimitri will give him a fight. Just a little bit of a fight. And then Robbie will, be like, oh, okay. And then he'll, give a little bit more to Dimitri. And he'll win, easily. Well, not too easily, of course. And then when he does, then Robbie will let him up. And before the fight, they'll talk about dojo allegiance. And after he lets Dimitri up off the ground or congratulates him or shakes his hand, whatever, that's when Kreese will be like, what was that? And then Robbie will, try and be like, oh, it was nothing. And then Terry Silvers will say, it's okay, Kreese. Let's just continue on with the tournament. And then for the next round, I believe Sam will fight Tori. And this will be, somewhat of a long fight, I think. Tori will get a point. Sam will get a point. Tori will make sure there is no point. Then she'll get a point. Sam will get a point. No point. And then Sam will win. But at some point during the fight, at least before the very last point is given, I think Tori is going to, just with her nails, is going to scratch Sam's scars. And I'm not saying she's just going to, bust them open. I mean, she may. It's still a show, so they could, really lean into somewhat of the ridiculousness of the fictional world that they have built. So, her scars could just, open up after Tori scratches them, or she could just scratch them and, they start to bleed and Sam freaks out a little bit, but is able to overcome her fear and, win the fight. And now when that happens, I believe Robbie will scold her. And, a lot of people have theorized, I think Robbie and Tori will be dating in season 4. So by this point, they will have been together for a few months, if not a full school year. No, just for a few months, because the show ended after Christmas. So just for a few months. And then the next fight, I believe, will be against Miguel and Sean. I think Sean's going to win because Miguel is doubtful he'll be at 100%. If anything, he'll be at 90%. And I don't think Miguel would be able to beat Sean with just 90%. He would need a full 100. Then Eli versus Kyler. And of course, Eli will win. And then Chris versus Robbie. And, during the fight, before, after, wherever, Chris is going to bring up how Robbie once said, once a Cobra Kai, always a Cobra Kai. And he'll ask, is that going to be true about you? And then Robbie will, say, it either doesn't matter or no, or maybe even yes. I doubt he'll say yes, though. And then we're on to the semifinals, where it'll be Sam versus Sean. And I think Sam's going to win only by disqualification. So in my mind, Sean will attack Sam's wounds, or, freshly open wounds. And when he does, Robbie is going to yell at him. And, of course, everyone will, but Sean is only going to react to Robbie yelling at him. And when he turns to be like, what, or to laugh at Robbie, that's when Sam is going to kick him or hit him, and get a point. And when she gets that point, that's going to enrage Sean, and he's going to hit her, and then he's going to continue to attack her, and he'll be disqualified. But when he goes to, further his attack, that's when Robbie's going to come in and stop the fight. And then that'll, piss off Sean, and he'll be like, what are you doing? And then Terry's going to come up and keep the boys from fighting. And then Sean's just, he's just going to leave. He doesn't care for all of that. He'll believe that it's pretty much nonsense. And then, Silvers will put up a show in front of everyone to be like, I'm sorry. But then when they go back to the sidelines, he'll be like, what was that? To Robbie. And I think this will start to truly cement Robbie's decision to leave Cobra Kai. And so then Sam will win that fight. She'll get her arm bandaged up. And then we'll go on to Eli versus Robbie. And Eli will say, just because you defended Sam, it doesn't mean I'm going to go easy on you. Sorry, I'm looking at what I wrote down on my laptop. And Robbie will, smirk or chuckle and just reply with, just don't cheap shot me again. And Eli will say, I'm not like that anymore. And Robbie will say, I'm not like that either. And then Eli will say, yeah, we'll see about that. And then, it'll be a really good fight. And Eli, I believe, will lose. And then the finals will be between Sam and Robbie, of course. And at some point, Robbie's going to be pulled aside by Kreese and Silvers, and they'll tell him, hey, go for her arm. And of course, he'll say no. Probably say something of the lines of, my dad and Daniel were right. And then he'll go back and fight Sam, and I believe he'll still win. But the way he wins, I think he's going to trip up Sam and then just fall back and drop an elbow onto her stomach. And then he'll lay there with her after winning the final point, and he'll say, I'm sorry, Sam, and I forgive you. And then she'll say, I'm sorry too, and I forgive you, Robbie. And then they'll turn to each other, smile, and that's when Robbie will get up, help her to her feet, and get the trophy. And then Robbie will go back to Daniel and Johnny. Probably not within the same episode, but definitely in season 5, I believe. So yeah, that is my ultimate theory of what's going to happen in season 4, with the tournament at least, and what Kreese will want from Daniel and Johnny after I believe he wins. So yeah, tell me what you think of the video, and if you would like to hear my season 5 theory of what I think is going to happen with Daniel, Robbie, Johnny, and Tori, just comment below and let me know. All right. With all that said, this has been Clyde Walker, and I will see you guys later.